Which came first?
Well, actually, when I first opened up and people found out that they could ask me all kinds of questions and I could answer them, they came over and they were like staying till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I had 2 little boys, so I thought, we have to put a stop to this. So I set up a few hours and started with private readings. And then I did a seminar. I think it was about 7 or 8 months after I had started. I was asked to do a seminar at a college. And the man was there. There were a lot of cops that they invited, which I didn't know in advance, and I panicked when they told me. And one of the men, I did psychometry as a demonstration, have somebody hand me something. And he gave his ring to someone else, unbeknownst to me. And then this other person who was over here in the room gave me the ring. But when I started doing the reading, I was looking right at this man that was in front of me. And I kept thinking to myself, why am I looking at this guy? Because that other guy gave me the ring. But I just barreled along and I did the reading and I started describing his new job. And all of a sudden this guy jumped out of his seat and said, "You're very accurate, please stop because no one's supposed to know about that job yet." And then the whole place went nuts because I was describing the fact that he had been selected to be the new head of the Delaware State Police, but nobody knew it yet. And I spilled the beans. And there were 2 reporters in the seminar too. So it was, at lunchtime he arranged to sit next to me. And right away he wanted to know, would I work on these 3 murder cases? And I said, absolutely not. You know, psychics cannot produce enough information to be useful on a murder case. And basically I didn't really want to work on murder cases. And I just kept saying, no, it can't be done. Why don't you let me be the judge? So this man called me every morning for 9 solid weeks. And I didn't even get Sundays off. Every single morning. And I finally thought, well, there's only one way to get rid of him, and that is to do it and show him that it's not good enough. And he'll go away and leave me alone. And it didn't quite work that way.
Yeah. So you didn't choose this work. This work chose you pretty much.
Hunted me down and harassed me into it for 9 solid weeks. And it's Colonel Smith's fault. And he laughs when I say that in an interview, but it's true. It is his fault. And I did the 3 cases and the first day. He sent 2 troopers, one who absolutely didn't want to be there and the other one who was really interested. And we went out and worked 3 cases, and I gave them information that day that solved 2 of the 3. It took a little longer to solve the 3rd. And as he said, you were in trouble for that.
Yeah, you did so well.
You did really, he said, if you didn't want to do this job, you should have botched the cases.
Yeah.
But I really, really did not believe that a psychic was capable of the detail you would need to be of any use. But then I didn't know that there are so many ins and outs to doing police work psychically, and there's a lot of stuff that a psychic who is properly approaching it can do to help. You know, it's not necessarily going to walk the case into court, but you can often turn up on missing weapons and you know, because I approached it from the beginning from the point of view, I don't want to work on a case unless I can produce stuff they can use in the court, but without me. Because I felt from the beginning no psychic should ever testify in a murder case. It would damage the case. So all of my approach has been producing physical evidence and proof that they can use, and no one even has to know I was there.
So you're behind the scenes pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Did they ever ask you when it was about to go to court, is like, do we really have the right guy here? Did
No.
they ask for any backup or confirmation that, you know?
No, because by the time they go to court, they have checked out what I've given them so thoroughly they know I'm right. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm going to be right on every single case.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm on, they know it pretty quickly because they start checking out what I'm saying happened. And very rapidly they come up against information that proves that what I was saying was correct.
What's your journey of investigation? Is it the crime itself? Is it the perpetrator? Is it from the victim?
When you say journey, you mean the angle I'm looking at things from?
How you follow to get your conclusions and get the information
Well,
coming in?
basically I start with the known quantities. I start with the photographs of the crime scene. If it's a missing person, then I need a photograph of the person before they disappeared so that I know what their thought pattern feels like. And then when I do a missing person case, I need a map that has marked on it where they lived, where they worked, where they were last seen. And then I just roll with the imagery because I know what I ask them to do is find me the last sighting that you know is real. For example, if the husband is a suspect and a woman is missing, we don't count what he says as to time. I don't anyway. I want the next sighting before his statement when I know she was alive and well, and then start tracking from there. So from the photos or following thought patterns, I go on images that come into my head, and it gives me a very poorly edited, I mean, I really wish I had better editors, but a really poorly edited movie runs in my head. I mean, there are gaps in the sequences, the audio's terrible, but from that, I can piece together, one of the first things they need to know is, did this person know their assailant? That's a very key piece of information. And if they knew the assailant, how? While I'm standing, I mean, I learned early on from one or two cases not to put myself inside the victim's mind. That was a disaster.
You can control that then.
I have been able to control that, and I do it standing right beside the victim. So I can see exactly what the victim is looking at, but not get as dragged down. I still get drained. But it's not as bad as it was. The first two cases I tried, I went right into the victim's mind. Oh my goodness. I mean, I felt the pain and everything. It was horrible.
There was a question we brought up.
Yeah, we did. We actually added that type of question.
Which we could ask you now, and I'd also like a print version of it, is like, obviously you're saying it, you're hearing it. Do you have physical reactions? Like if an arm was broken during the attack, is your arm hurting? Can you narrow it down like that?
I think what's difficult for people to understand is if you're too close to the victim, which you really have to get pretty close to the victim in order to do this work. And this is why a lot of psychics are not good at crimes, because we're like a big giant emotional sponge. And when you start ranging a victim, their pain, their terror, all of that enters your mind. And you're stuck with all those feelings. And it takes a lot of strength to be able to withstand that, still get the kind of information the cops actually need to get those necessary details to nail the so-and-so who did it.
Have you furthered your education so you know what you're looking for? I mean, how much of a detective are you now?
Well, after 35 years of working homicide cases, I know quite a bit about forensics that I've learned on the job.
Mm-hmm.
I've had no training at a college or anything. I learned it on the job.
That's the best way to learn.
Well, there's stuff I could have used that would have been taught in criminal justice courses too. Like I think, this is the guy, go get him. Well, there's these legal issues. And I learned early on, you just can't walk up to the guy and say you did it. Although there have been a couple of occasions where the cops kind of brought me into a couple of locations where the killers were and let the killers see that I was with them. And we got some interesting reactions, and in two cases an almost immediate confession because they knew who I was. And I guess the way the cop said to me, "You have such a great glare." And I didn't even know I was glaring. I was like, I was just focusing on getting all the information out of their minds because both the cases were missing persons. So we had not yet found the body. So to me it was like, here's the suspect. I know he did it, so let me go through his imagery and find out where he put her. And that's what I was focusing on, but apparently I really, really glared at these guys. And the next thing you know, when the cops questioned them, they said, "You know who that lady was?" "Yeah, I know who that lady is." "Yeah. She said you did it." And they confessed. I was like totally amazed. I was afraid that was going to come up in court and I'd get dragged in to testify on that one, but it's a learning process, and I have learned a lot about things like blood spatter and velocity of blood spatter and now what I work with primarily, although sometimes when I'm working with small departments who've literally never had a murder before, I've given them advice that I've learned working with other cops forensically, that they have then learned, and then I, suggest to them, you're entitled to ask help from the state police. They have a better lab. Call them in. You get their forensics guys. Some of these cops didn't even know they could do that. I mean, their chief has never done it, so they didn't know. There's a lot that you learn, and I mean, I've worked on 775, I think it's going up this week to 776, but 775 murders. You learn a lot about how police catch murderers with all those murders under your belt. I mean, you can't help. Well, if you're paying attention, you learn. If you're not paying attention, you won't.